Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
And welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. Well, there is a new sheriff in town, and President-elect Donald Trump is wasting no time in selecting key staff for his new administration, and also charting his course of priorities. And joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, former DoD Intel operative. He is also president of Project Sentinel. Tony, it is so great to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita. Always great to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
What do you make of President Trump's latest appointments? He has been very busy.
Yeah, I think, and I sent this off to Laura Trump back about 2 weeks ago. I said, the president should really focus on 3 points for anybody he brings in to be part of the senior staff. First, they need to be loyal. It goes without saying that one of the failings of the first Trump administration was having people in who weren't on board with the president's policies, and that was catastrophic. Second, they need to be technically competent. That is to say that they have to have a brain. They actually have to have some level of skill and ability to fulfill the job or task that they're given. And third, they need to understand his policy. They need to know what President Trump wants done and do it. Those are the 3 criteria. And I think so far he's picked everybody that measures up nicely to those 3 items. Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, Congresswoman Stefanik, you've got Mike Waltz, my friend Mike, and, of course, my friend Pete Hegseth. They're all folks who I think are going to be very effective in helping to understand and then implement what President Trump wants done in his second term.
You brought up a couple of them. Let's kind of walk through them. Sure. Pete Hegseth, who we both know, great guy, obviously combat veteran. Explain why he is a good pick and an interesting pick, because he's written a book, as we both know, where he essentially says there should be no sort of woke generals, that the Pentagon needs to really clean house and focus on the war fighting. Explain why he maybe is the perfect pick at this moment.
Yeah, he wrote a book, War on the Warrior, which, obviously I agree with the premise. And I think he's qualified for 3 different reasons. First, he's no dummy. He's actually very well educated. I find it ironic that Joy Reid over at MSNBC is yelling about his non-qualification, yet he's got a degree from Harvard, as does she. Of course, his degree isn't something useful. She has a degree in film studies. So just saying, So he's got an actual legitimate academic background. Second, he's a combat veteran. He's been to war. He actually got 2 Bronze Stars, one more than me, which is great. And he's actually been in combat. He knows what it's like to do the hard work of being on the ground, being an operator, trying to do the things necessary to defeat an adversary. So he has that. It's not like it's a theory to him. He's got the experience. And then third, and I think in many ways this is most important, he's not beholden to anybody. The only man he has to report to and be worried about is President Trump. Often, Rita, we have generals, senior officers who come out of the DOD, and it's a revolving door. They leave DOD, they go into a high 6-figure job, sometimes 7 figures, and they go back and forth. And it's essentially what Eisenhower warned us about, the military-industrial congressional complex. And this is why you've seen an article out in Politico talking about how worried lobbyists are. Well, they should be worried because Pete's not going to listen to him. He doesn't care. He's going to make decisions on procurement, decisions on weapon systems, decisions on strategy based on what he and President Trump thinks are most important, not some K Street lobbyist who's getting paid to manipulate the process of budget and war fighting based on the bottom line of a corporation. So I think those are the things that we can look forward to with the Secretary of Defense of Pete Hegseth.
How woke do you think the military has become? Has it lost its way, as Pete has talked about?
It has, yeah. And so there's now a review board. They're talking a warrior review board, which you're talking about, which, by the way, people are up in arms against. Well, a guy named General Marshall actually put together such a board in 1940 to sort through who he, under President Roosevelt, thought would be necessary and capable of actually being in a fight for World War II. So this has been done before. It's the same principle. And they're going to actually review the senior officers. And it's not quite clear who's all going to be in that pot. I've heard 2- and 3-star generals. I've heard 3- and 4-star generals. I think it ought to be anybody above at or above the rank of colonel, period. And you need to go through and sort through and use 2 criteria to judge them by. First, what are your missions? What are the assignments you've been given? And secondly, did you fulfill those missions? Were you successful? Very simple. And if the answer is no, and yet you got promoted, well, it's probably you got promoted because you did, you're of a specific protected category. Lloyd Austin, who I know, I was in combat with Lloyd Austin. He was the brigadier general in charge of the task force. Lloyd Austin, based on my own personal experience, is the ultimate expression of DEI. He is the poster child of DEI. And he's the guy that failed regarding the Iraq withdrawal. That was his plan. It failed, and we had to go back. And then he's been the guy that's been overseeing the debacles, every single military debacle within the Biden White House since Afghanistan on. So clearly he wasn't picked for his military genius. There has to be something else. That something else is DEI.
Choosing a bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drink that's all flavor and just 100 calories? Easy. Choosing between creamy vanilla, double chocolate, and sea salt caramel flavors? A little harder. Try the delicious new Starbucks Frappuccino light drinks. Look for them wherever you buy groceries. Start with Starbucks coffee.
How much is the rank and file encumbered by DEI? And do you believe it really just needs to be at the leadership level?
The answer is DEI will sort itself out once you get the leadership sorted out. There's a presumption of I don't even know how to put it, because I have a very close friend who's an active duty member of the military, and basically there's the military today is focused on how to essentially kowtow to any individual's desires, and it's very dangerous, and it's a function of and an outgrowth of DEI, that nobody wants to offend anybody. Well, let me tell you something. I enlisted in 1981 as a private. I went through the ranks. I retired as a lieutenant colonel, and I can tell you that you're uncomfortable for most of your career. You do things which make you uncomfortable, but you grow. You become stronger. The concept of being stronger based on working hard has now become an alien concept within the military. It's all about giving people things and hoping that they don't complain. And that's no way to run a military. So we got to get back to basics. We got to get back to establishing baselines of performance. And I would argue, and I actually taught a class on this, Rita, at the Army War College and at the Army Asymmetric Warfare Group. We have to look at things not by measures of performance, but measures of effectiveness. The military has become great in establishing fake artificial performance objectives which have no tie to the real world. That's why we fail. That's why we don't have victory as part of our lexicon at this point. We have to measure people, measure organizations against measures of effectiveness. Are you effective in doing your mission? When you were assigned a specific job, did you do it, and how well did you do it? That needs to be the standard, not about, who you sleep with, what color your skin is, and oh my goodness, did I give you a soft enough pillow to sleep on at night so you don't complain about the military?
Yeah, great points. Let's move on to Mike Waltz, who we both know, congressman from Florida, now about to be the National Security Advisor. Explain why he is a great choice.
So another person who's weathered and experienced from dealing with the deep state, and this is one of those notable features about, Mike and Pete and myself. you can understand the deep state and not be part of it. And Mike Wallace is one of those guys. He's had to fight it, as have I. And the deep state exists in such a way to protect itself. And many bureaucracies, large bureaucracies, after a certain point in time, they become focused on protecting themselves rather than doing their job. So Mike understands this. And he's coming in with warfighting experience. He's a Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel retired. He's been in combat. He's now gone through and he played the Washington game. He's done think tank stuff. And then he went down to Florida, became a member of Congress. So he's actually very experienced in understanding the spectrum of necessary tools and techniques that he needs to use to help President Trump manage the entire enterprise that is the executive branch. So no better a man than Mike Wallace, I believe, exists to actually put that all into perspective and understand the mechanisms that need to be done. Now, I would argue, obviously, the folks that Trump had last time, John Bolton, H.R. McMaster, they understood the mechanisms, but they weren't into the policies. They actually fought the president with policies. So that will not exist with Mike Wallace. Mike is in tune and understands the policies of President Trump, and I think he'll be both effective in understanding how to do it and how to do it rapidly, and I think that's why he's a great choice.
You know, also, he's been courageous. I mean, not only on the battlefield, but afterwards. Look at even after the Butler shooting. I mean, he was one of the folks leading the way for questions. He's not afraid to ask some of the tough questions, right, Tony?
Oh, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I saw him at Chesapeake about 2 weeks before the Pennsylvania shooting. He was there with the president. We had a good conversation. And, Mike was completely committed to protecting the president. He's been on the campaign with him. So I'm not surprised by the choice. I think it's an appropriate and effective choice. But Mike is going to be able to have the courage of his convictions. And that's the thing, too. Remember about our side versus their side. Mike Walsh doesn't need a script. He doesn't need somebody handing him lines. He's going to do what he thinks is appropriate and necessary. And I see him bringing that to the job at the White House as well.
What about Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intel, of course, former Democrat, changed to Republican. What do you think of that? And again, another veteran.
Well, I'd like to believe I had something to do with her transition, so to speak, since I was advising her when she was a member of Congress. It wasn't that, I didn't hide the fact, but my friend Dennis Kucinich came to me about 10 years ago and said, look, I got someone I want you to advise. Dennis, being a Democrat, kind of a radical Democrat, but someone I got along with.
And by the way, someone who's very active with the RFK campaign.
Yeah,
yep.
Right. Yeah. So Dennis, my friend, and I said, of course, I'll advise any member of Congress who wants to hear my advice. And sure enough, she did. As a matter of fact, I just tweeted out on my X account a picture of she and I in our last meeting at her office in Congress. So I think this is great. She was already looking practically at how to become a better steward of national security while she was still a Democrat. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons we met is because she was concerned that the Obama administration, Rita, was not taking seriously the idea of protecting Hawaii. Imagine that, a member of Congress being concerned about her constituents and reaching out for help. So I was able to help link her up to some folks over in DOD to help her get some resources she felt Hawaii needed. I was very happy with that. And I'd like to believe the fact that we were reaching out to her and trying to help her as Republicans. Maybe that's not well with her. I don't know. But I don't think there's a better choice. She's got experience. While she wasn't on the Intelligence Committee, she was on Armed Services. She understands how Congress works. She will be a great steward of looking at the Constitution, looking at what should be done regarding military and intelligence operations, and being able to bring the intelligence community back into focus on what it should be doing, collecting intelligence against bad guys, regarding bad guys, and trying to protect the American people.
And speaking of priorities, Matt Gaetz, I think the mainstream media is having an utter meltdown over this one. And what was your reaction when you found out he was picked for Attorney General? And do you think he'll get through the nomination process?
Well, there's two senators now kind of being a bit hanky. I'm not worried about that. I don't know what their problem is with him. He's been very precise in what he talks about regarding law, process of law, questioning of witnesses. He's very good at that. So I don't understand why people are freaking out, other than I think they're afraid of how effective he's going to be as the Attorney General. And I think an effective Attorney General who's willing to go and look at things that no one else has been willing to look at is very important. Oh, by the way, where'd that 15 million votes go from 2020 to 2024, Rita? I think it's something that, an Attorney General should look into.
Well, and I will say certainly, by the way, that Merrick Garland has been the most politicized attorney general we've ever seen. I mean, he really has. And it does certainly send a message, like you said, that, there's going to be no hanky-panky, and that, Matt Gaetz will certainly be somebody who will make sure that a sitting president will not be, the focus of, unwanted lawfare and totally improper lawfare. I mean, it really has been extraordinary. One of the other things, too, also, Tony, is Vivek and also Elon Musk. This is interesting. This Department of Government Efficiency, which sort of goes back to a lot of the things we're talking about, they're going to slice and dice many departments if you look at it. I mean, Elon Musk already said he thinks he could cut $2 trillion. He said that at Madison Square Garden. That's going to send chills through Washington, right?
Oh, I think so, and I agree with him. Look, I can think of more than probably $40 billion worth of Pentagon programs you could cut instantly and not miss a thing. The government itself is bereft of any accountability regarding their spending. As you know, Rita, the government is designed so that you basically automatically get a 7% increase in your budget every year. It's like, are you nuts? And it's like, who gets a 7% budget increase every year no matter what, no matter if you're competent or not? So there's lots of room for them to jump into it. And I think they are the right folks to do it. Elon Musk being an innovator, someone who's actually figured out how to make the space program profitable, no small thing. And also, Vivek is going to be able to bring, I think, common sense and a clear understanding of what is necessary versus what is just kind of nice to have regarding government programs. So I think they're going to be a great combination.
I mean, that would be extraordinary if they can truly find like where there is fat. And believe me, when you see some of these things about that, right. I mean, you hear about the $1 million toilet seat or whatever it is, I'm throwing that out as an example. But even if you just look at some of these ideas, there are so many areas. Let's talk about also President Trump's priorities. What do you think we'll see almost on day one from this president? I mean, he keeps saying, look, promises made, promises kept. And he really looks like he's going to incredibly hit the ground running day one, even prior to day one.
So he's going to restore instantly through the stroke of a pen access to drilling futures. One of the reasons that gas has gotten so high is because there's a lessening of potential reserves down the road. That's why big companies, oil companies, have been basically charging more money because they're going to have less, is what they thought. So the moment he actually opens up the spigot, opens up federal land for drilling, you're going to see the price come down very rapidly because, Rita, as an environmental scientist, I've got a degree. We have no dearth. We have plenty of energy. CO2 is not a pollutant. It's a gas that actually helps plants grow. He knows this. He's called out the climate folks. He's going to open it up and really pour gasoline into the motor of the U.S. economy. Mark my words. You've heard it here first. Secondly, every single executive order that Joe Biden, as much as they had a friendly meeting today at the White House, President Trump is going to restore all the executive orders that Biden dumped. That's going to have an instant effect, very positive to everything from border security to the basically commerce across the nation. And third, and most importantly, one thing he didn't do, which he's doing in reverse, as part of the transition team, I think he's going to secure recess appointments for all of his appointees. Think about that. These people aren't going to going to sit around and wait to get confirmation. They're going right in. This is going to be one of the most effective things he can do. Is actually if Senator Thune will support it, to get these people in their jobs now. And if by doing that, by reversing from what they did last time, by having all of the different transition teams, which I was on the defense transition team. We had conflict with Jim Mattis, as you might know. We could talk about that for an hour. Instead of any of that, they're going to be rolling the actual guys and gals into their positions and moving out. So those are the three things I think will net instant results from a new President Trump administration.
And what do you think we'll see from a foreign policy? How much do you think he'll be able to achieve with Russia, Ukraine, and also with obviously what's happening in the Middle East?
Yeah. So first in the Middle East, he's going to end the war with the Israelis pursuing and achieving victory. That's it. I think Netanyahu has spoken 3 times already. I think that both men understand what has to be done to achieve it. I think the Israelis are going to prevail rapidly. I think Iran is going to rethink its policies because now Trump's got reason to come after him, just saying, both with the assassination attempt and all the different things they've done within the Middle East regarding the Red Sea and the Houthi. That's all going to be, I think, I'd say 80% resolved by the time we get to January. Regarding Russia-Ukraine, look, I'm not pro-Putin, but he's going to sit down and talk to Putin. I think you got to talk to the man if you want to end this. The Ukrainians, as much as everybody would wish differently, are in no position to achieve victory on their own. And us throwing another $119 billion using a failed strategy is not going to make a difference. So it's time we look at how to end this thing without further bloodshed on either side. I think he's going to talk. The 2 men are going to talk. They're going to try to decide how to actually engage in a series of negotiations. And I think we're heading to a solution that'll be similar to 1953 North and South Korea, at least for the meantime. So.
And you believe that he'll be able to do it pretty quickly, right, on both? What are your thoughts?
I do. No, look, he knows how to make deals. He's a deal maker. Rita, you and I know New York. New York is no easy place for someone to survive and actually be a builder. Donald Trump was a builder. And the fact that he could cut deals and get things done, sometimes using a hammer, sometimes using, a pat on the back, speaks volumes of the man. And he's going to bring that back and actually be able to use that on the world stage. And I think Putin and he's sitting down and Zelensky, they'll be able to work things out pretty quick. I think, again, the war in Ukraine will be finished before January.
Wow. Well, that would be great for everybody. And especially, we pray for the Ukrainians every single day. And what a horrible situation that they have been thrust into. It really is. Yep. Tony, thank you so much. And by the way, everybody be sure to subscribe and share to this awesome podcast. Tony Shaffer, such great insights and always love having you on. Thank you, Tony.
Hey, thank you, Rita.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.